Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews up in New York. Let me start tonight with this. The biggest mistake you can make is thinking that this is the end of it. The angry right, led by Senator Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and whatever posse is joining them, are ready to do it all again and again and again. Cruz is blaming his fellow Senate Republicans. Far bigger is the relentless onslaught of anger against the president, the Affordable Care Act, and all things Obama. For that, the course is now set. A huge fight over the budget heading into the week before Christmas. Another government shutdown looming early in the new year. Finally, another debt ceiling the month after that. Expect this fight against Obama to barrel all the way till 2016. For his enemies, the demolition of this president remains their most exciting quest. They call it the cause. Its battle flag is the stars and bars. Its religion, the notion that somehow the minority who back Cruz and Lee and the rest are the real Americans. That's their job, to take back the country from the other. Those people who live in big cities, minorities and liberals and others who, to them, constitute the enemy. Be warned, with every fresh defeat, this crowd becomes more frustrated, more angry, dismayed that they, who are the true, indeed, super Americans, assume their vote should count for more than those lesser folk they think are lesser who voted for the president. How else do you explain that a group that's outnumbered at the polls again and again should call itself, as it does so predictably, the American people? Joining me now is editorial director of the Huffington Post Media Group, Howard Fineman, and Washington Post opinion writer Jonathan Capehart. Both are MSNBC political analysts, of course. But first tonight, gentlemen, a little comic relief following more than 2 weeks of dysfunction. In a comparison pointed out by conservative writer John Pedora, it's a favorite of mine, he called it the Animal House shutdown, complete with Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee playing the roles of Otter and Bluto in this great misguided call to arms. Howard, a real futile gesture. What have these 2 weeks accomplished for anybody on this planet?
Chris, I should point out that at the end of the movie, they show that Blutarski there becomes a United States Senator. I don't know if you remember that.
That's right. Thank you for that bit of history. We did need it this week. Yes.
Okay, it's perfect. Well, first of all, I think as funny as that was, there's nothing to laugh at here. I think that this is the beginning, among other things, of a real grassroots civil war in the Republican Party. You saw today that Ted Cruz and his allies went after Senator Thad Cochran of Mississippi, who voted for the Reid-McConnell deal, and they're going to support the Tea Party challenger down there. I think Mitch McConnell himself is going to have stepped-up antagonism from the Cruz faction. And I think one of the things that's going to happen between now and 2016 is a real ground war led by the Cruz people against anybody who disagrees with them. So part of their mission is not only to point to those moments that you're talking about come December, January, and February. They're in this for the long haul, and they're looking to take over the Republican Party.
But let me go to Jonathan on this, but their fuel, what angers people, the hatred of Obama, is the fuel for their engines. They may be going after what they call moderate or chicken Republicans, but they're really running on the fuel of hatred of Obama, hatred of Obama care, if you want to call it that, hatred of anything with his name on it, with it marked on his jersey, anything they can tie to him, any vote.
Right, absolutely. You know, I wrote a piece yesterday, The Irrational Fear of President Obama, and it was based on an interview that our colleague Stephanie Cargill and I did with a man by the name of David Jackson in Belmont, North Carolina. And we were there to talk to people in Belmont about what they knew about Obamacare and what they didn't. And just asking him about Obamacare led us down this sort of rabbit hole of conspiracy and fear of the president that when you read the transcript of the portions of the transcript that I put in the piece, it's I've heard people say it's scary, it's mind-boggling. What world are these people in? But they firmly believe that the president is out to destroy the country. Okay. They don't trust him, and they support folks who support their viewpoint.
Jonathan, take this carefully. I mean it carefully. Just imagine we had an African-American president who did three things. He doubled the stock market, took the Dow to double where it was when he came in. He went out there almost at a fever pitch, killing our enemies in the world, using all modern technology to do it, not listening to the left who complain about it, poo-poo, going out there and killing all our enemies, with drones or whatever missions he can use, using SEAL teams, whatever, to do that the guy before him couldn't do. And he used the Republican plan on health care, the Heritage Foundation plan, which was pushed a bit to the right of Nixon. Do you think they would applaud that? I'm just being sarcastic because that's what he did.
Right. If that president were white, you mean? Yes, absolutely they would applaud what he did.
I forgot that ingredient here.
Right. Yeah. Of course they would applaud that. And I just should point out, Chris, that David Jackson in North Carolina told me he does not believe that Osama bin Laden is dead. He does not believe that the United States, on orders from President Obama, actually killed America's #1 enemy.
And what does he think happened? Obama's cooperating with us in some way by acting dead.
I couldn't explain it. I just asked the question.
So the medical team on the boat, the ship bringing him home before they buried him at sea under Islamic law, did everything right by his religion. Did those people lie? They all lied. I can't explain where he got that from or why he even said that. Well, anyway, the Republicans are already itching for the next fight, of course, and their target dates have now been set with the passing of the Continuing Appropriations Act. January 15th is when they can fight again over shutting down the government, of course, their favorite cause now. And the debt ceiling has to be raised by February 7th, giving them another date to which they can threaten the U.S. and world economies, of course. Here they are, putting it on their game face, putting on the game face.
So we're going to continue to stand up for our values. That we have all along.
So what does this mean for the future of the Republican Party?
This means that we're doing exactly the right thing. We're choosing the right areas to advocate on for the people of the country, and we'll continue to do that.
We indeed will continue to fight. We're not going anywhere.
We took a charge at this and we fell short. But at the end of the day, I think we lost the battle, but we're going to win the war over Obamacare.
Sometimes you think it's the Battle of Gettysburg still on here. Anyway, Senator Ted Cruz, who often seems to operate in his own private universe, alternative reality, of course, spoke on the Senate floor yesterday about what the world might be like if it only were as he imagines it. Let's listen.
I would ask you, Mr. President, to imagine a different world. Mr. President, I ask you to imagine a world in which Senate Republicans united to support House Republicans. Imagine that one piece being different from what we saw. Imagine after the House Republicans stood together with the American people, if all 46 Senate Republicans have stood together and said, we are united against the train wreck that is Obamacare. And I want you to imagine, Mr. President, if Senate Republicans have stood together and simply supported House Republicans and the American people. Mr. President, if that had happened, this result, I believe, would have been very, very different.
Howard, it's exactly your point. He's making war against his fellow Republicans using the fuel of anger against Obama. But you've been around like I have for a while. That's a strange use of the Senate floor. I mean, the areas on the Senate floor, which is supposed to conduct the business of the people as Americans, and he's operating like he's in a Republican counter caucus, some town meeting. He talks like he's at a town meeting. He's blasting away at his co-partisans, his fellow members of the Republican Party, using the Senate floor to do it. I just think that's strange. I mean, I'll just say it's unusual to do it.
No, I agree with you, Chris, that's one of the striking things about it. But Ted Cruz brings his mental town hall, his mental congregation, if you will, and I think there's a sort of religious tone to a lot of what he does. He brings that with him wherever he goes. It's a portable construct that he's got everywhere, whether he's speaking to a bunch of reporters outside the Senate or on the floor of the Senate or anywhere. Utterly political, utterly militant, utterly focused. And their goal, the goal of his and of the people who are around him, is nothing less than a takeover of the Republican Party from the inside, if they can, or the destruction of it from the outside, if they can't. And I think that first of all, any Republican senator who is up for re-election, who supported the Reid-McConnell deal of the other night, is going to face a well-financed challenge with money channeled via Ted Cruz and his allies, who include Jim DeMent of Heritage, who include the Koch brothers. I mean, they're out
It's a
for
purge.
blood here.
It looks like a purge.
They're going to do the purge if they can. They have nothing but contempt for people that they view as sort of accommodationists who are in league either deliberately or by neglect with Barack Obama.
Well, President Obama admonished defeated Republicans today that breaking our system of government is not the way to make change, not breaking it, helping it. And he had a suggestion of how they might one day get what they want. Let's listen.
You don't like a particular policy or a particular president? Then argue for your position. Go out there and win an election. Push to change it. But don't break it. Don't break what our predecessors spent over 2 centuries building.
You know, sometimes the president isn't at his best. He was today. And I thought, Jonathan, that go out there and win an election is the most healthy charge to your opponent I've ever heard. Do you want to fight? Let's fight clean. Let's go to the polls, get some people to work with me, raise some money, run for office, give the speeches, and win one time. You can't beat me in elections. You know, I fight by the Marcus of Queensberry rules. I go out there and debate. Maybe I'll lose one debate, win 2 other ones. But at least I'm running. What are you guys doing? What you're doing is waiting until we need the debt ceiling passed and trying to screw the country to get what you want. Kidnap it, if you will. Extortion. Why don't you play fair? I mean, I really think it comes down to that. It's not illegal what these guys have done. We know that.
Right.
But it breaks the rules of normal political debate and decision making. Because if everything is like this, it's going to get worse. It'll always get worse if you keep going in the direction that Cruz is taking everybody.
Right, it breaks the rules of governance. Look, in that clip you just showed, that's the president talking about what just happened over the last few months from the 35,000-foot level. But what he said there is what he was saying in a more granular fashion when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. As he said in several interviews, I believe also with our colleague John Harwood, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, was passed by both houses of Congress, signed into law by the president, upheld, challenged in the Supreme Court and upheld by the Supreme Court, and then ratified by the American people vis-a-vis the 2012 presidential election, where the Affordable Care Act and its repeal or staying in place was one of the central themes of the campaign. And yet, as you said, and as we all know, you had a narrow band of the majority pushing a no-win strategy to convince this president to do away with, to defund, delay, and repeal his signature legislative accomplishment. And as we all knew going into this, if that's what the Republicans want to do, then they're going to need to take over the Senate in 2014 and the White House in 2016.
And the first step towards that is taking down the Confederate flag from their political rallies. I think that would be a good start for everybody.
Absolutely.
Howard, thank you so much. Howard Feynman, I think you got the nail here. It's to hit the other Republicans using Obama's fuel to hit them with. Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post, thank you so much.